Hello and you're welcome to the Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler, in association with Square. Square can help you with your business needs, from menu management and payments to online ordering. Visit square.com for more. Now, are you experiencing FOMO about Threads? Will Meta's new Twitter rival, which now has over 100 million signups in its first 5 days, put a nail in Elon Musk's increasingly shaky platform? And how exactly can you sign up to it if you're in Ireland or in the European Union? Well, Tabitha Monaghan, do you have FOMO about Threads?
A little bit of FOMO around Threads. I'm reserving judgment at the moment, waiting for a few more people that I follow or I know to join, and then I'll decide whether or not I want to go through the effort of trying
Well,
to
how
sign
will
up.
you know if they've joined or not?
Well, actually, no. I'm seeing a lot of people on Instagram, that people that I follow, who are signing up for it. And I don't know, I assume because it's an Instagram platform as well, they have this beautiful way of sharing a thread on your story. So you're being told, people, it's like, how do you know? No, sorry, I'm not going to say that. People are sharing that all the time on their stories. So you are finding out. It's one of those things, people want you to know if they're on Threads.
Okay, because you can see it on threads.net as well. It's a good opportunity for me to back up for 10 seconds and say what Threads is. Right. Threads is an offshoot of Instagram, so it is your Instagram handle that you're using. It imports all of your Instagram data. At the moment, you can't delete your Threads account without deleting your Instagram account, and it's not available in Ireland or the European Union. But I got onto it, and I now have my own Threads account, and I'll tell you how in a couple of minutes how to do that. I've been using it for several days, and it is very Twitter-like, but it's not as harsh as Twitter.
It looks like Twitter. When you're using the app, it looks like Twitter.
And a lot of the accounts that I follow on Twitter outside Europe are actually on Threads. In fact, the number of sort of celebrities and influencers, and in fact tech CEOs who have joined, is actually huge. I mean, there's definitely a buzz about it at the moment.
Even it was the closest that I think I'll ever see you do live coverage of a tech event, even on your Twitter. The first kind of few hours, it was like at 4 hours there was 5 million. Yep. Then within a day there was 30 million. You know, it was massively hyped.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's a couple of features that it doesn't have, which are promised for it, but this would make a big difference if you were going from Twitter to Threads, for example. You can't search for keywords or posts at the moment.
That's mad.
So, for example, as we're recording this, there's a big news story going on about a BBC presenter. Now, on Twitter, I can search for the term BBC presenter if I'm curious. Within about 30 seconds, I see all sorts of rumours about it.
Loads of hot takes.
I can't do that on Threads. That is also a disadvantage if I see something that I really like on Threads, a post. Even if I like it, I can't go back and check my previous likes. I can't go and search for that post. So what I'm having to do is take a screenshot of it and clog up my photos with it.
That seems to be, I know you're saying it's coming, is that an oversight on the part of Meta to release a platform like that where you can't search for common ground with other users, so you can't engage with other users on topics that you're interested in?
I think it might be. I think it might be deliberate. So we know that Mark Zuckerberg has said that he wants to make this a town hall square, but without the downsides of Twitter. We know that he has said that Twitter has largely failed in what it is, sought to do, which is kind of a harsh way of putting it. But what he means is that Twitter never got above a couple of 100 million users because it's very angry, and it may be where the cutting edge of news stories happens, but it's quite edgy as well. And he wants Threads to be a little bit more like Instagram, a little lighter, with more people using it. So he doesn't want cliques to form. So at the moment, for example,
but does that not happen already? So like if you're only following the people, if you're only able to see the threads of people you follow,
that doesn't happen on Threads.
Okay.
So the other big limitation to Threads at the moment is you can't choose to only follow the accounts that you have asked to follow. It will thread in, if you excuse the pun, lots of different accounts that it thinks that you might be interested in based on your Instagram profile. Oh. So I am seeing like a constant stream of accounts, people that I haven't followed, some of them who I'm not that interested in following. None of them trying to sell me Bitcoin. None of them denying that COVID happened. So it's not extreme. It's not enough to really annoy me. But there's like a lot of sort of fluffy kitten stuff, you know.
Can you help curate your feed in the way, and help the algorithm along. So, for example, you can
say,
I don't want to see this person anymore.
I don't want to see this person. You can hide. It also has a very nice way of blocking somebody if you want to block somebody. It gives you the choice to block or to restrict, which means they won't know that you have actually blocked them. So there are some nice features.
But we're giving them a lot of control over what we see, though. That's quite unusual.
The thing is that's mainly what people want. That might sound counterintuitive. So Elon Musk's argument is that freedom of speech at an extreme libertarian level is what we should generally strive for, with a few exceptions. The Facebook, Meta, Instagram, TikTok model is no. Most people don't want an absolute free-for-all on free speech. What most people want is a generally informative environment, but that's curated and moderated, where you won't see the extremes on each side. That's why TikTok is so successful. TikTok is by far the most moderated platform out there, and that's what Threads is setting out to do at the moment. A few other things that you can't do at the moment, which you can do if you're a Twitter Blue subscriber, if you pay for Twitter, and that you can do on Instagram. You can't edit posts at the moment. That's coming, apparently.
That was a big deal when Twitter brought that in.
Yeah. There's no web app, so you can't use it really on a laptop. Okay, you can see posts of other people. So that there's a website called threads.net. So if you go to threads.net/Adrian Weckler, you'll see what I've posted, but you can't interact with that. There are no hashtags. There's no language translations at the moment. No tagging pictures or videos. No GIF or GIF support. There's still a debate over that one. And you can't delete your Thread accounts without deleting your Instagram account.
That's a big one, I think, because even if you're like me, maybe I use Instagram a lot more. If I just want to dabble in Threads and I want to have a look, and then I say this isn't for me, this platform's not for me, I have to get rid of my Instagram as well.
You do. At the moment, you do. Now, you can deactivate your Threads account, so you can effectively put it on ice, okay? But if you wanted to nuke it, for example, because you were annoyed at how pervasive it was, or you decided you had a moral qualm about all the data being sucked up, right now you can't delete it without deleting your Instagram account. By the way, that is one of the big reasons why it has not launched in Europe or Ireland.
And I think why we should probably talk about that now, because a lot of the listeners aren't actually going to be able to get on the platform, or without serious hurdles to get over in order to
I'll address that, how you can get on it, in a second. But first, the reason why it's not available in Europe, why it didn't launch in Europe, and why, in my opinion, it will not launch for the rest of this year in Europe, talking to many of the people involved, is because in Europe, Meta and other services, you're not allowed to cross the data streams like this. So, as I said, Threads is a spin-off of Instagram. So your Threads account sucks in all of your personal information, your location, what you buy, who your relationships are with, what you like, where you shop, everything you can imagine from Instagram right into your Threads account. You can do that in the US, and since Brexit, you can do it in the UK as well, because they're not as strict about data privacy. Here we take a slightly more strict approach. We tend not to allow services to do that, or they have to jump through more hurdles. So Meta decided, to hell with you. We don't care. We need to make money. We need a new product. We're not going to waste time satisfying you bureaucrats in the EU. I'm paraphrasing. I don't agree with this sentiment, but that's what they say. And that's why they're launching. And that's why they're not likely to launch probably for the rest of this year.
So it was Meta's decision not to launch. It wasn't the case of any bureaucrats in Europe saying, actually, no, sorry, we can't allow you to.
Meta did inform the Irish Data Protection Commission that it was going to launch this, but it told the Data Protection Commission that it was not going to launch in Europe for the time being. And the reason, speaking to people in Meta about it, the specific reason is because data protection in Europe at the moment is too harsh, and we're unclear about what a major new regulation called the Digital Markets Act, which we've discussed before in this podcast, we're unclear about what that means for us with Threads. We will find out a bit more about that in September, but if they're finding out in September, they're not going to launch it probably until 2024.
If you're an Instagram user, are they collecting more information from you than Instagram has up until this point? Like, for example, for me as an average user, I would think if Instagram already has this information on me, if they're going to have it in Threads as well, or are they going to look for more information if I sign up for Threads?
It's not that there are more bits of types of information, so they're not going to know like different categories of information than they would in Instagram. But you will probably use Threads in a different way to the way you use Instagram. So it is more newsy. It is more about what's going on. You are likely to treat that platform in a different way to the way you treat Instagram, which means now Meta is getting to see a slightly different side of your personality.
Okay, and then it's the problems that then both platforms share that information. Okay.
Yeah, and if you are an Instagram user, for example, you didn't necessarily sign up for that platform to have news-related content. You didn't necessarily want, your political views on something to influence what you see on Instagram. So that's the European view. The US and the UK view is, do what you want.
Yeah.
Now, the important bit, you can actually get onto Threads.
You can.
You
yes.
can. Okay.
I've seen many people I follow who are Irish users on Instagram who have been posting that, hey, I have Threads, come follow me or whatever. And I was wondering how they were getting around this. So explain.
So I have done it. Now, there are three basic ways, and I'm going to generalize here. The way I did it was on an Android phone, and that was by side loading the app onto the phone. Now, basically what side loading means is it's an unofficial way to get an app onto your Android phone. I'm not going to post details of locations or anything where you can get what's called an APK file, but if you do a basic search, you'll find it. Even do a search on Twitter, you'll find it. That does come with a mild security warning. They don't advise you to sideload apps onto your Android phone. They can, in some circumstances, come with security risks. I decided to take the risk because I'm a journalist,
etc.
I decided to take the risk because I wanted to see what Threads was like, and that's why I have Threads on my phone. Now that I have it on my phone, it's also active on the web for me. If you go threads.net /Adrian Weckler, you'll see my feed. It doesn't care where I am as long as I initially downloaded it to the phone as per the regulatory rules. That's for Android. For iPhone, you can you can log out of your Apple ID, change the country of your Apple ID. So at the moment it would be for Irish users, it would be set to Ireland. You can log out, change it to UK or the US, and then use that to download the Threads app from the App Store. And then even if you go back and change your country again, it doesn't matter. As long as the app is already on your phone, it won't care. You can use it that way.
There are some hoops to jump through. Legal questions over this? No. All good?
From a user point of view, all good. So these are regulatory sort of geolocated barriers that are put up. But from your point of view, it's generally fine to do it. Now, there's a third way you can try to do it, and that is by using a VPN, a virtual private network, which I haven't tried to do. And sometimes that can work in situations like this, and sometimes it's frustrating or it's a little bit janky. But the way that I did it worked just fine.
Okay, so you're on the platform now. A big thing is that they want it to be an open and friendly public space for conversation. That's what Meta wants Threads to be. Going back to your point about the moderation of the platform, how are they going to do that so that it doesn't descend into the toxicity that Twitter is now?
They have massive experience with Instagram. That's their biggest asset. So you probably use Instagram more than I do. I don't know what you think of the atmosphere there and the moderation there.
Very rarely. I think you can start, if you click on something if I clicked on something on my Discover feed that I wouldn't usually, I can kind of start seeing the tone of the posts change, and I can very easily get myself back out of it again. So I'd have to almost go out of my way to try and see a negative
you can
thing.
Find sort of angry or toxic or dodgy content there, but it will be less likely to be pushed toward you.
Yes, very true.
Than on Twitter. So that general principle will be the same on Threads. Now, there is a slightly higher risk with Threads because it is more news content, and you are starting to see more controversial figures come over. I saw quite a few controversial figures coming over onto Threads, although not the most extreme ones because they're banned from Instagram anyway. So a lot of the people who would have been banned from Twitter in Ireland then got reinstated when Elon Musk took over. Some of them, by the way, have been banned again because they're so extreme. But those who are on Twitter, they were also banned on Instagram, and they have not been reinstated on Instagram, so they cannot get onto Threads. Now, a lot of, not a lot, some people, there's one vocal cohort who will say that's censorship and that's big tech and commercial interests censoring free speech. And in a sense it is, but in another sense it's actually reflective of what most people want. Don't forget, 100 million signups in 5 days. That's kind of testament to the success of this. There's one final point I'd like to make about, because one question is this going to kill Twitter?
Well, this always happens. Every time some new platform comes on, it's will it kill X platform or Y or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's a time will tell thing. For me, I wondered, and a question I want to ask you is that we see a lot of the ways that social media platforms, current ones, are going is down the route of video sharing. Do you think the appetite is there for a platform like this to share views? Because we're very video centric now.
We are, but don't forget, I mean, that's kind of what Instagram has become, right?
Yes,
so Instagram and TikTok, and to a lesser extent YouTube in a different way. YouTube. So Meta already has two, because it has Meta, it has Instagram, it has Facebook, and it also has WhatsApp as well, by the way. But let's just take Instagram and Facebook. It has two video sharing platforms there. It wants to create something that's a bit more like Twitter, so it probably won't be as natively focused on video, because Twitter isn't as natively focused on video.
Yeah.
Only in and except that it is sort of is news-related stuff. There's some entertainment stuff, but not so much entertainment. So I don't think the video thing is a big deal for Threads. What I think is a big deal and why it will hurt Twitter is not that the news industry will leave Twitter. I don't think that, because there's so many accounts there. It's still the place to go. During the RT scandal, we did a good job. The Irish Independent, Independent.ie, RT did a good job. Virgin Media did a good job. The Irish Times did a good job covering it. The one place to go was still Twitter for all the breaking.
For the latest stuff, yeah.
But, and here's the big, big, big thing. Because Threads is moderated more than Twitter, and because it already has 100 million signups, ad buyers are now looking at that. Ad money is going to pour into Threads. No ads on it at the moment. They're going to pour into Threads. Okay. Now, we know in the podcast industry, it's quite difficult to attract ads around content that is considered not to be sort of, warm and if you deal with anything edgy, it can be quite difficult to get ads. Twitter's share of the ad market in social media platforms has gone from about 10% a few years ago to 2%. And that's because of the content that's on it. Now, I think what's going to happen is Threads is going to take another chunk of that. Twitter will go down to 1%. At that point, Elon Musk paid $44 billion for it. At that point, Twitter's overall value will go down. That means they'll have to make more cuts. That means there'll be less protection for it. And Elon Musk will either have to sell it, or it'll just become, something very, very unsavory altogether.
So it's the ad revenue that's going to...
That's how I think Threads is going to hurt Twitter. It's going to take a big chunk of its ad revenue.
What's Elon said throughout this whole thing, because at the end of the day, it is a direct rival to Twitter. So what has he said since this launched?
Well, do you want the pre-watershed or the post-watershed version of what he's been saying?
A bit of both.
Well, he's obsessed. Elon is absolutely obsessed with Threads at the moment. Every third or fourth tweet or reply that he's posting is related to Threads or related to Mark Zuckerberg, up to the point where, when we recorded this podcast on Monday morning, Elon actually went there. He actually posted a tweet with a tape measure suggesting a literal measurement contest of a certain anatomy part between himself and Zuck. So that's the level it has gotten to. He knows that Twitter is in trouble commercially.
He's worried, it seems.
He's really worried because Twitter fired off a legal letter last week to Threads, which was just hilarious, alleging that Threads had copied Twitter, and that was several executives who had been fired from Twitter or been let go had now started working at Threads, and that was a huge problem. He's very worried, and he's right to be worried, because Threads is going to do significant commercial damage to Twitter. It won't kill Twitter. I'm still posting on Twitter. I'll still look at Twitter. That's where a lot of news still happens. But it's going to do a lot of damage, I think.
Interesting.
So that's where we are right now. So Tabitha, thanks for having this chat. I hope you are a little bit more educated as to what Threads is and where you can get it. If you want to try, you can actually do that. And I'm not going to say safely, but sort of 92% safely. Maybe that's good enough. I don't know. Anyway, thanks to Tabitha Monaghan, who also produced this episode, to Gavin Hennessy on sound, and to Conan Doherty on video. And for me, Adrian Weckler, you've been watching and listening to The Big Tech Show in association with Square, and we'll talk to you at the same time next week. Bye-bye.